Hello, Compromising Positions listeners. We've got a fresh episode of Compromising Positions coming your way at the end of the month. But in the meantime, we've been busy cooking up something new. If you enjoyed our end of season film reviews with Lianne, Simon and me, you're going to love this. It's called Tech Film Noir, where we dive into the tech behind classic, cult and occasionally chaotic films and ask the important questions. Did it predict the future, or is it absolute nonsense? So, for your listening pleasure, here's your first taste of Tech Film Noir. And go on, hit subscribe. You know you want to.
Welcome to Tech Film Noir, from cult classics to cinematic chaos. We ask what holds up and what falls apart when it comes to tech and our beloved sci-fi classics. Because when the movie guesses the future, we check their work. Tech Film Noir. Tech Film Noir. Tech Film Noir. Welcome to Tech Film Noir, where we break down the tech in classic and cult films and just in chaotic films. Joining me today are my co-hosts. Please welcome Simon Painter.
Hello everybody, how's it going? My name's Simon, and like most of us on this podcast, by which I mean all of us, I work in tech, and also I am a big fan of films of all sorts. My current project is to watch through the 1001 Films book, the all editions compiled together version list that I've got, and it's taking me a while, shall we say, but I will get there one day.
And joining us is...
Well, hello, thank you. I'm Jeff Watkins. I'm CTO for a tech consultancy. I think, just about qualify for being a film buff nowadays. I think two of my areas of expertise are cheesy Hong Kong action cinema from the sort of 70s, 80s, 90s, and also Italian giallo as well, which I'm particularly fond of.
And I'm Lianne Potter. I have been a software developer and now work in cybersecurity and slowly transitioning, kicking and screaming into AI. And my film creds are that I used to write for a horror film magazine. So, joining us on this journey, throughout these episodes, you will be guided with three techies who will go through the greatest and worst of technology in cinematic history. And today, for our very first episode, what a perfect start. We will be going to that 1984 classic, something that was an absolute staple in my house, watched over and over again until the VHS tape ran clear, and that is The Terminator. Thoughts on the film, guys? What is your experience, your first memory of The Terminator? Because I'm just going to give it a given that anyone listening to this, anyone that's ever seen The Terminator, will enjoy The Terminator. I'm guessing that is the same for you.
Yeah, the interesting thing about The Terminator is that despite all those people that say how really good it is, it's really good. It really is. It's excellent. My first memory of it is actually my grandparents went on holiday to Malta and thought they'd do us a favour, my brother and I, by bringing us back a VHS of a film they thought they'd like. So we got Terminator and Terminator 2, only for it to turn out that they were super duper ripped off copies with photocopied covers and obvious recorded VHS inside, which we never watched. But I did have a Terminator 2 action figure, which I used to play with a great deal when I was little. So there we go. Strictly speaking, I think I saw more of Terminator 2 than 1, but it's always good to revisit the first one.
I think my first experience was probably like anybody of my kind of vintage was seeing the super cut BBFC version many moons ago, which was missing quite a few bits to it, but also it had a strange Mandela effect as well. Every time I watch it now, I swear there's a scene that I've seen in some uncut version that just doesn't exist. I look for it, and it's absolutely infuriating. But my first impression of it was wondering what happened to the punks in the opening scenes, because it was so badly cut. There's like, what happened? Did the Terminator kill them or just kind of pat them nicely? It was so badly cut you couldn't tell.
But unfortunately, Jeff, they died. They all died.
Well, now we get to watch it super uncut, 4K restored, etc. Not that I think it got much better beyond like HD, but it's nice to see the director's vision. I guess one question for everybody is, what genre do you think The Terminator is? Because it feels like it's cross-genre to me.
What do you think it's crossed with?
Well, for me, there's obviously huge elements of sci-fi. There's quite a lot of action, but there's also like kind of like stalking horror. It's got like this huge cross pollination of tropes and techniques.
And there's also romance as well, so it's tilt chick flick.
A little bit. I mean, there is a little bit of a blurry, fuzzy line, though, isn't there, between horror and thriller? And I've watched a lot of both, and there's still a whole ton of films where I'm not sure I could consistently point to which one is which sometimes. This one, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a horror film fan as such, but this one, for me at least, I think it kind of, you're right, it has elements of kind of slasher horror in that the Terminator is going around and killing, but it's not, I don't know. For me, this falls more on the side of thriller rather than outright horror, although I think it could quite comfortably sit in both camps if it really wanted to.
Well, I see it as very much a sci-fi film with elements of horror, but the 80s were really, really good at that, I think, especially like John Carpenter and things like that, just kind of really blending the two genres. But why don't we watch the trailer? For those of you who don't remember what it was like, as I say, you must watch it if you do not, but let's see what the trailer says.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
Of course, it's a beautifully made film. I don't know what the budget was like. I have a feeling it probably wasn't the highest budget film ever at the time, but I think every cent of that budget went on the screen to do something pretty useful at some point. I mean, it looks gorgeous, and that was actually something I picked up on rewatching, because of course I've seen the Terminator a whole load of times, but watching it again with a slightly fresher eye, it's sometimes nice to pick out on some of the other bits and pieces about it. And one thing I noticed this time was the color scheme, because I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is early 80s, and the whole idea of color grading your film and having a color palette that represented your film and stuff, I don't think that was such a thing back then, not like it is now where it's almost a given. And I noticed that there's almost a color scheme that represents elements of the character. So blue is used almost exclusively to represent the Terminator and Kyle Reese, who are both from the future. It's blue with bits of red. You've got red highlights. Even in the film poster, which we're showing on the screen there, it's kind of mostly blue but with red highlights. That's the colors of the future people. The Terminator has piercing red eyes, and of course that is, like, once he's got his fleshy parts all burned off. But Sarah Connor, on the other hand, who is not from the future world and is not part of the grim dark future, her color scheme is pink and beige. She's got like blonde hair. Her apartment is beige colored and beige decorated. She wears pink shirts almost all the time, so it sets her apart, because of course she's just an innocent who's been dragged into this strange world of Terminators and resistance fighters. So even as a bit of color scheme, she stands apart. But the last time we see her, when, spoiler, she's going all sort of survivalist on us, she's dressed in blue. She wears blue overalls with a pink bandana, which presumably is meant to hint to us that she's moving now in the direction of the sorts of things that Kyle Reese and the Terminator get up to, which she kind of is.
Also, I think from that kind of time era, a lot of electronics, if you look at things like boom boxes and even TVs and VHSs, red was the color of all the LEDs. So and you see the displays, the Terminator's sort of HUD. Red was very much the color of LEDs and electronics back then.
And I think it's used to beautiful effect. And all those nighttime shots as well, with all the blue lighting and all that, it just looks so flaming good.
All the tech look good in this. Everything looks good in this film.
And I was quite pleased to pause a little bit on the Terminator vision. I remember that being a much bigger thing, the Terminator vision, but actually it doesn't appear many times. I mean, I have no idea what's on screen there, but it looks an awful lot like low-level machine commands, the sort that might actually exist. Oh yeah, we got it on the screen there. So those are actually legitimate-looking machine code commands. I don't know what they really do. They're probably doing nothing like what we see the Terminator doing, which is roaming around and shooting people, but it still looks legitimate enough.
So there's a chap, I'm going to fully credit and share his YouTube video called Open Source, where he analysed the Terminator's vision code, and it is assembly language. but quite a lot of it is garbled. So they utilize systems from the Amiga, the Apple II, early IBM's PCs, and so that's what we're kind of seeing there. It's kind of like a mishmash, and I think we did go through it, didn't we, Jeff, when we were looking through it, and it was pretty much just boot up garbled, kind of.
Yeah. It's assembly language. I can't remember which type of assembly language it is.
Apparently, from my googling, it's 6502
That
assembly
makes sense.
source codes.
I think, yes, I remember. Yeah. So that's 6502 being the chip that was very popularly in the Commodore 64 and also the Nintendo Entertainment System, amongst many other things. I think might have been manufactured up until quite recently. I know the Z80 was only put out to pasture, which was where the ZX Spectrum, etc. used. That was the Z80 was only put out to pasture, I think, a couple of years ago. So
what you're telling me is that the Terminator is compatible with the NES.
Yeah, and probably has a 1 megahertz processor.
I'm just trying to work out where on earth the cartridges would go, and I probably don't want to know.
No.
I'd probably be able to sleep much happier at night not knowing the answer to that question.
I think the bigger question is in 2029 we're still using assembly language in this way. So,
I mean, fundamentally, this is much closer to binary, so it makes complete sense. Although, strictly speaking, the improbable thing is why does it even appear in text format when, the Terminator doesn't really actually need... It's not like the Terminator's sitting there and reading these commands in text. The Terminator's presumably running off pure binary, and we're basically just watching the debug log file of the Terminator superimposed over his vision.
And the fact that the Terminator's taking the time to actually print out all the comments as well, that doesn't feel like very, very good battle efficiency.
But apparently some of it's also written in Cobalt, so any kind of Cobalt consultants out there that are still clinging on to those vestiges and earning those huge consultancy paychecks from those legacy systems, getting close with the Terminator. You might be able to save us all.
Or doom us all. I mean, I've always thought there was something at least a little bit evil about Cobalt.
But there was something when I remember. So I watched this film a lot as a kid. My parents were huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fans and did not care about the 18 cert rating. So from a very young age, I watched probably films I probably shouldn't have done. Terminator was one of 2 VHSs we had and got a lot of play. And it was a VHS top loader. I don't remember if anyone remembers.
Yeah, I had a top loader.
It was a top loader VHS player. My parents really saved up for that to get that because it was very expensive back in the day. So watched this film absolutely loads. Very cut probably, just like you, Jeff, as well. And watched it later on when it got re-released. But one thing, watching it back again recently for this episode, was when it flashes up and says 2029 AD LA, and then it shows the war, which is one of the greatest openings of all times in a film, with the most killer soundtrack I've ever heard and the best Foley I've ever heard. It's the first time watching that I actually thought, this could probably come true now. All the other times I've ever watched it, it's like, this is sci-fi, this is a horror film, but now watching it with all the stuff that's going on with AI, I'm just like, actually.
I think this is the cultural significance of this movie is 9 times out of 10, when people talking about the dangers of AI, they mention Skynet. A good portion of the time, it has a cultural significance of this is what happens when the bad AI comes for you. Even though it's probably just like the tech bros, the techno feudalists who are going to use AI badly to enslave us all and take all our Bitcoin. That's probably what the real risk is, or just melting the polar ice caps rather than Arnie going all ham on us all.
I mean, there is the question of why does Skynet want to kill us all? I don't think, even in the sequels, I don't think we've ever answered that question. It's just kind of evil.
Kyle Reese lets us know, so I will play this section.
Sorry, Mr. Reese.
New, powerful, hooked into everything, trusted to run it all. They say it got smart. A new order of intelligence. Then it saw all people as a threat, not just the ones on the other side. Decided our fate in a microsecond. Extermination.
So basically he's like the robot Santa. He's basically like the robot Santa in Futurama, where his naughty or nice setting was set so extreme that he just decided everyone was naughty and deserved to die. So, gotcha. Yeah,
but we're seeing that today in AI discourse. there was a massive paper release. It was called the 2027 paper on AI, and it war games out a scenario where AI becomes sentient, and basically, if we don't put anything in place to stop it, it will just take over the world and destroy us all. And I'll put links to that in the show notes as well. But it's a really interesting kind of thought experiment. But a lot of people in the AI community think this could feasibly happen, and it's like there's a lot of AI preppers in the tech industry talking about this.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know because I've not read these papers, but I would guess that they're not imagining the scenario that Hollywood often comes up with, where the AI is literally sentient and has just decided that, grr, I hate those humans on my lawn, so much as a setting is wrong somewhere or variables wrong somewhere, and it's just misinterpreting all of the not things to kill as things to kill, and it's just going around killing them with complete dispassionate disinterest.
So in that paper in particular, what they demonstrate two outcomes. One is a kind of a positive where humans intervene and slow down AI progress, put in safety measures in, stuff like that. But they said probably the more likely scenario is that if we keep giving AI all this decision-making power, then eventually it says, actually, in order to go explore space, that's the end goal, apparently. Go explore space, what they do is that they manufacture a virus, a neural toxin or something like that. Then they just flip the switch one day when they decide, yeah, I've had enough humans.
Fair enough. Or they just
and then go explore space.
Yeah, and obviously. It's that, or they could just get the evil switch and switch it from evil to good, and then everything's fine again. I think that one works too.
It's a long-standing AI problem, is the idea of reward functions and the stop button problem. As in, if you don't get your rewards and motivations right, then it may be completely against itself being deactivated. We're starting to see that in some papers now as well. AI trying to get out of being deactivated and you can see that in its reasoning, going, I'm going to try and code my way out of being deactivated. Like, huh.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite scary. So I would say quite a lot of this film makes up my identity. I practically speak in quotes for this film. If someone asks, if I need to find like the date, for example, I'll say, what year? Like Kyle Reese will. Just kind of understand. So it's really absolutely in the zeitgeist for me. And one of the things that did, when I was watching it, that did kind of come up is how disgusting is Kyle Reese's trousers. I totally forgot like how gross that scene is. And it just made me think, well, are we going to get any better with time travel? Because that mode of time travel really sucks if eventually I'm going to have to wear a dirty pair of pants. Now, I couldn't find a decent image of it, but from when I was watching it, and I should have taken a screenshot at the time, but those pants are definitely shitty. He's definitely wearing pooey pants throughout the entire film, which he refuses to change despite having opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I don't get it because he goes 5-finger discounting at night in the mall, doesn't he?
With some beautiful high tops.
Yeah, picks up everything else, but the trousers. Like, come on, man! We were talking 10 extra seconds just to go and get some nice slacks or jeans. Come on.
I suppose you could justify it that he's been living in a war-torn future where everyone's huddling for survival and he just literally doesn't care. You know, it's probably better than whatever sort of rags of cloth he was strapping around his netherly regions to just, but in future world, because I don't think we see much. Well, actually, no, we do see some brief clips of him in armour, don't we? But what he wears under his armour, I have no idea.
That's his own business.
I don't think it's shitty trousers, though. There's definitely poo stains on there. Anyways, it disturbs me. But again, time travel. Interesting concept for time travel, this film. It's kind of...
It's a MacGuffin, isn't it? They needed a MacGuffin to make it all happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't say, "Oh, we just invented this technology today," and it's somehow it had to. It's a MacGuffin because I think filming because the budget was quite small for the Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Filming all of it in the future was probably going to be too expensive. So and it's the same with a lot of time travel movies. Or a lot, even like with spoiler for Planet of the Apes. When the Planet of the Apes movies, like, we've cut our budget. What do? You move it to the present day. You figure out how time travel and move it to the present day because suddenly, like, your budget goes through the floor because you go, oh, how do I shoot the scene? Well, I just close the street off, or say I've got a filming license and film in, wherever.
And you're referring to the beautiful Return to the Planet of the Apes where they come back to Earth.
Yeah, and the budget was like a quarter.
And celebrate life in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good
Fantastic
film, that one, though, in fairness.
I love that one. It's one of my favourites.
It's a really good one. But I mean, it's. I mean, first off, I would say that they 100% make every bit of use of whatever future footage we have, and also one thing I really enjoyed was the transitions between future and past. There's a couple of them, and they are gorgeous.
Nearly seamless, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a bit where Kyle Reese is asleep and dreaming about the future world. I can't remember. It's sort of just like I don't even know where the cut is. It just sort of almost somehow seamlessly moves from future world to
It's
present
between,
day
I think,
1980s.
like a caterpillar or something, like a
Yeah,
caterpillar
yeah.
that's working, and that caterpillar somehow at some point cuts to being one of the hunter-killer things. And it's
Not
like,
a giant caterpillar, we should say.
no, yes,
As in
caterpillars in
caterpillar
plant
kind
machinery.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Can you imagine that'd be a totally different film, like the hungry caterpillar comes on a
Yeah.
rampage.
It won't stop. It doesn't know satiation. It eats. That's what it does. It's all it does. Dun,
No,
dun, dun, dun.
don't give those folks that make those Winnie the Pooh films ideas. They will be taking notes if you'd let them. But the editing on that is just a thing of beauty, though. That, like, I watched that and I probably could slow mo and work it out, but it just seems so perfect. And at the beginning too, where we open on Future World, where it's all grim, and then the sort of the next shot almost is a machine moving, and we're meant to think more future machine, and it's not. It's a digger or something, but it's filmed in such a way that we can't tell at first. And that, again, to transition us from future world to 1980s world, that's just genius.
Oh, but the 1980s world in this is so 80s though as well. It's delicious.
It is.
Like they got the Sarah Connor's scooter looks like a video recorder on wheels. It's like the best thing ever.
Oh, I dream about that scooter. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and Ginger's Walkman is like as big as a boombox. It's the kind of thing that if you wore it too many hours a day, you'd end up with like a permanent hump. It's like this is some beautiful, beautiful 80s tech in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just going back to the time traveling pods, question: these time traveling pods or the Brundlefly pods? Because in both of them you have to be naked. And my theory is if time travel is a thing in the future and we have to be naked, everyone's going to be in fantastic shape because you're going to want to be in fantastic shape because wherever you land, you're going to be totally naked. So it could time travel bring superb health benefits to us all.
Well, I mean, Arnie does look pretty good, but he was literally constructed that way. But Kyle Reese is a little bit sort of worse for wear, but he's not in bad shape. So could well be. Although it's convenient for the plot, of course, that he looked pretty good. Otherwise, like, the plot just literally falls apart because that whole sort of bootstrap paradox thing can't happen.
Yeah. The other problem is if you go Brundlefly, if there's anything in there, then obviously it's not good, is there?
One of the reasons I actually think that this film works so well, but there are many reasons why this film works so well. It's really good. But one of them, I think, is that it's a film that knows exactly what it is. It's a film that has stripped back. I think it's stripped back the characters to just their essential elements, and everything else in the entire film, all of the production, all of the supporting characters, support those three characters and their sort of mode, as it were. Each character has a mode that they embody. The Terminator is single-minded, and that's it. That is what the Terminator is, and everything about every aspect of the production around the Terminator is to support this idea. You know, like the way that when he's coming to one of the other Sarah Connor's houses, instead of stepping over some kids' toys, he just steps straight on because he can't see anything except Sarah Connor. And when he's like ripped into pieces at the end, he's still trying to crawl along together. I mean, like, he's so single-minded that if he was reduced to a head, he'd probably be using his teeth to like crawl along the pavement after her. There is nothing else going through his head except get her and kill her, and nothing else matters. That's great, and so that's brilliant how they've worked out that is the essence of that character. And for Kyle Reese, it's that he is vulnerable. Like, if you look at the way the two characters arrive, when the Terminator arrives, he sort of uncoils slowly and carefully, and then poses in front of Los Angeles like a Greek god. And then Kyle Reese appears, and it's just like, from on the floor. Oh my God, this hurts! And you can see he's all covered in scars. He shows pain on his face but he's also tricksy. The next thing he does is avoid the police and steal some clothes. So he's vulnerable, but he's also resourceful, and that completely puts him at odds to what the Terminator is. He's everything the Terminator is not. And again, the film knows this, and that's what it's selling to us, and that makes it so such a streamlined film to watch. And of course, Sarah Connor is an innocent dragged in, and that's her thing. Although she's the only one with a character arc, in fact.
Well, it's an incredibly economical film, and that's why I like the first ones, because whenever you get a film series, the temptation is to add more layers of lore and more complications. It's like when you're trying to maybe make some art and you start to overly flourish or do too much, and you realize you ruin the beautiful simplicity of what you had a while. And I think that's why I think it's like the original Alien as well, same kind of thing. There's like a beautiful simplicity about it. It doesn't try and go too much into lore. And then any subsequent sequels are just doomed to start layering lore on and complicating matters, on being limited by the original movie without creating inconsistencies. So then he had like really strange retcon lore in. And I do love the economical simplicity of the first movie.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single shred of information that's not necessary to the plot of this film. I mean, they even heavily imply that this is a closed loop, that there is no sequel needed, because I think, doesn't Kyle Reese kind of hint with his dialogue that they've basically won, and this gambit with the time-traveling Terminator is just like a last attempt to restart things in Skynet's favour, which, of course, spoiler, it doesn't work. And then we get Terminator 2, which kind of throws a ratchet in that. But you didn't need a sequel. There is no call for a sequel at the end of this film. It's a closed loop. It's basically a cyberpunk fairy story.
I love that.
It's got that sort of, it does have that sort of slightly fairy story-ish logic to it. And there is this odd way that nothing in the world exists except for these three characters, and other characters kind of drift in and out of their story, but it's really only these three. They are all that exist in this strange blue-lit nighttime world of Los Angeles.
Absolutely. No, I love that. One of my favourite bits of the film, and there is many, I just couldn't pick them all, but was really at the time quite shocking, was the voice mimicry scene. So when the Terminator goes in and kills Sarah Connor's mum, you don't see that, it's off camera, but she gets she's on the phone to her mum and she reveals her location, and then you see on the other line there is the Terminator mimicking the mum's voice.
And it's hinted at earlier on as well, because when the Terminator calls Sarah's home and you get the answer machine, he says, "Haha, you're talking to a machine." It feels like there's a little bit of a subtle hint to what's coming in the future.
I think that's deliberate. And I mean, if James Cameron, if he's known for one thing, aside from really, really loving the Titanic, if he's known for one thing, it's attention to detail. Like, he's a director that is very much all attention to detail. So I'm sure that all of these little details like that are 100% deliberate choices.
There's a really cute little detail that I saw on a film analysis I'd never really spotted, but there's a shot that frames Arnie in the film in the Tech Noir club, where there's a pair of like electric terminals, like Frankenstein style electric terminals by either side of his head. As a piece of imagery, it's like, that is definitely intentional.
I bet. Actually, one thing. Well, there was actually with that voice mimicry thing, of course, they bring that back in the second one to great effect as well. But actually, one thing that surprised me watching this again, going back a moment to dialogue, was the context behind the famous line of dialogue, "I'll be back."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's not really a big deal in the film. He says, "I'll be back," because he's about to go and get a car and ram it through a wall. Isn't it weird that became the iconic dialogue from this whole film series and Arnie's entire career? You pretty much say, "I'll be back," and you think Arnold Schwarzenegger, irrespective, and that line creeps up all over. But it's not really that big a thing.
It is only one of 14 lines he had in the entire movie, so there weren't a lot. The other one is one of the other ones is "fuck you, asshole," which is great when he's like selecting from ChatGPT style responses of like what he should respond to.
That's gorgeous. And actually, now this is kind of controversial in a way, but I almost would feel better if they'd removed that line, even though like "I'll be back" has become such a thing. Why is the Terminator saying that?
Wisecracks,
that line you're talking about there, where he swears at the guy, that makes sense because his internal ChatGPT algorithm is trying to say, what is the line of dialogue I can say which will get me what I want fastest, which is to make this man go away. That makes 100% sense. But saying "I'll be back," that's a joke. That's kind of funny. Why would the Terminator, it would make more sense to me to actually delete that line, even though it's a really good line. And the other one was where he's in the gun shop and, he's saying like, "I will take, I'll take all." And the guy's saying, "You can't take
29 9mm.
Yeah. And then the Terminator just says "wrong" and blasts the guy. Now, once again, why bother saying that? Like, once he's completed all necessary dialogue, I don't know why. From a machine point of view, why is the Terminator still talking?
Just like ChatGPT, he's very sycophantic. He still wants to fit in. He still wants to please a little bit.
But he's about to kill the guy.
him.
He doesn't need to fit in with him. He knows he'll be dead in approximately 20 seconds.
That guy is actually the piece of Mandela effect I have. I distinctly remember seeing a version where there isn't a cut there where you see the guy go flying towards, like, hit the back of the shop as he's blasted with the shotgun. But I think it's entirely made up. It's entirely made up.
Oh, wow. I have to admit, I'd assumed that that's what I saw too, but this is just what happens when you see it the once and your brain starts filling in necessary little bits and pieces.
Other thing I love, and I'd always kind of subconsciously spotted this, and somebody pointed it out, is that a lot of the gunshots in the movie have single frame white inserts, like white flash inserts, instead of muzzle flashes. So you get this kind of, like, like a light gun game, or they used to have like this white flash every time you shot, because it's how the gun figured out where you'd shot on the screen. But they do these single frame white inserts when Arnie fires a gun, and it's really startling.
It's really effective as well, and I think loads of films after that utilised it, didn't they?
Again, it's making the maximum use of it's incredibly low budget. Who knows how good those guns actually looked if you don't do a few editing tricks. Budget wise, the only place it starts to really fall together, unfortunately, is the finale. In terms of writing, it's all top notch, 100% all the way through, and I'm happy with everything. But you can see that they have completely hit the wall of budget limitation when you get the skeletal Terminator wandering around afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's just the stop motion.
Yeah, I don't think it's the actual puppet itself. The puppet looks fantastic. I think it's the composite, isn't it? The composite is, bless them. But are you telling me that you prefer the Rubberhead then? You think that was earlier on in the film?
Yeah. The Rubberhead thankfully only gets little brief shots every now and then. Obviously they can't really open up Arnie's skull in order to pop something inside it, so they have to do something. But that's just like a passing thing, and it's just to tell us a storyline idea that the Terminator's starting to fall to bits over this mission, but it's not slowing him down. But yeah, with the final chase, in our final thrilling action sequence, unfortunately the composites aren't great. It's the budget, it's the technology of the time, it's the budget limitations of the time, and the stop motion on the Terminator itself. Although, like you say, it's a beautiful model. It still looks good as a model, but the actual motion of it isn't the best. And actually, one of the worst special effects sequences, for me at least, I noticed it this time, is as Sarah Connor drives away in that final shot. That is clearly a painting she's driving away to. Those moody-looking hills are clearly a painting.
Oh yeah.
That's high def.
There's some. Although apparently he did wait to get the right time of the day to get the ripples on the tarmac. But yeah, there's clearly some kind of matting going on there. Of course, the other thing worth noting here is Arnie's missing eyebrows for the movie after one explosion bit.
When they said, and this is a tangent by the way, when they said, okay, we're making another Terminator film and we're going to show the war, the one thing I wanted from that, and I believe it was Salvation, the one thing I wanted from that movie was I want to see rubberheads. They mention it in the first film, and rubberheads are the early prototype versions of the Arnold Schwarzenegger type Terminator that they could spot from a while away because they just look really rubbery. I was so hoping that in Terminator Salvation we'd see some rubberhead, and we did not. However, we do get a glimpse of what Rubberhead might look like in the actual Terminator movie because the effects are a little bit ropey.
Yeah.
And but the image we're showing right now on screen, so if you want to jump into YouTube, is what it looks like now, and it does look a bit worse for wear.
It looks better than some of the awful puppets that have degraded over time.
E.T. looks really bad.
Oh god, E.T. is so cursed
haunted,
now.
Absolutely haunted.
I've seen some terrible pictures of what some of the Labyrinth puppets look like.
Yes, absolutely.
And you don't need to see that. You just don't need to have a lovely film like Labyrinth ruined by seeing what the puppets look like now. Oh dear. Although that is, in fairness, that Rubberhead looks the 1984 Rubberhead there looks pretty good in that shot. Although it doesn't look quite so convincingly good in all the other shots of the film.
I don't know why they didn't just make it. When they shot that scene, just
underlight it a little bit. Make it
Yeah.
briefer, make it underlit. It'd have been fine.
Yeah. It could have been saved, but I mean, it's a small thing in an otherwise really extremely good film, and it tells the story. I've got a very if the writing is good and the acting is good, then I have got a massive capacity to forgive any budget or technology limitations in a film. I mean, I'm a
Oh,
Doctor Who fan. I love 70s Doctor and 60s Doctor Who. Some of those look a little bit ropier than the Terminator.
Hmm.
What I really like about the Terminator, though, as well, because obviously there's a whole scene where he's fixing up his arm and sorting his eyeball out and stuff, that, he follows the right to repair scheme, which is very nice. Because, we've got to keep our Terminators in ship shape. They're very expensive. So it's nice that you can actually repair these guys. In a world where technology is very throwaway, it's nice to...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Terminator presumably has to. I mean, he doesn't have a repair shop anymore. Like, he has to be this one thing that's going to last until he does the job, which is kill Sarah Connor. It did occur to me though, they're on the run from the Terminator. So they know that this unrelenting being is chasing them, and he's going to make a straight beeline for wherever they are. But all they do is sort of go slightly out of town to a cabin and wait for him. So wouldn't it have been like cleverer to just keep on driving? Like, the Terminator doesn't know where they're going. He's not Skynet. He's not, an AI thing. There's no internet as such. Sort of there is, but not really. Not like we have it now. So could they just keep on driving and driving and driving until they're on the other side of, all the way down to the bottom of the American continent or something, and then just wait there, just have a lovely life, drinking cocktails, not being terminated? And how would the Terminator ever find them? I mean, he'll probably carry on checking literally every house in Los Angeles until he finally wears out.
I think if that happens, the alternative narrative to that movie is because the Terminator shot off that police department and caused untold deaths, and it references it in the second one where they're like, hey, we're looking for this guy because he killed loads of police officers. There's like a scene in Terminator 2 where they literally say that we're still looking for this guy because he killed loads of cops. He's very distinctive. I think wherever he goes, eventually people will be like, this is an unusual killer. And ergo, actually, every time we shoot him, it's not just because he's happed up on drugs, like the other cops say. It's because he's a robot. And then it gets revealed that actually robots are a thing. And then world domination in a different way, perhaps.
Maybe. But he's not. He's been programmed with one purpose. That's kill Sarah Connor. I mean, I appreciate that it would take it'd probably take tanks to roll over him before the US government managed to bring him down, but they could do it eventually, even if they have to like reverse a tank over him a couple of times until he's really good and squished.
I love how this becomes like a 1950s B movie instead, where the tanks come in, like killing Godzilla or something like that.
But I mean, of course, none of this happens because the whole film just becomes silly at this point. If all they do is go and hide in Argentina for 20 years while the US government run tanks
Not
over the
Nazis,
Terminator.
Simon. They don't need to go to Argentina.
Well, we don't know what the form of government is in the
Well,
future.
yeah, okay.
I mean, hopefully not. Although it's run by folks who have known only war and survival, so who knows what sort of extremists we're dealing with.
Well, that's why I'm quite like. I can't remember what it's called, because obviously, if we're all in agreement, like 1 and 2 are great. My preference is 1 as number 1, and then number 2. Controversial, I know.
I think it's controversial.
I know. I think a lot of people prefer 2, and I get why people prefer 2. That will probably be another episode. But I tell you, will not be another episode, and we will never watch it. Hopefully, if I have anything to do with it, it's Terminator 3, which I did go see at the cinema after years and years of childhood love for this franchise, 1 and 2, and then to be old enough to go to the cinema to go see Terminator 3, and to get slap in the face as a fan in the first 5 minutes of how crap this film was going to be. I'll never forgive them for what they did that.
It is bad.
The rest of
yeah, I have never to this day seen Terminator, or was it Salvation? And it's probably a good film. I've heard it's not bad. But the problem is I watched 3 and then I just thought, I'm done. This film is so bad that I am done on the whole franchise.
Yeah, 3 was so unremarkable. I never watched it again, and I cannot remember a single thing from it. It was so dull.
The ending is the one thing in this completely pedestrian, ordinary, crowd-pleasing action thriller. I quite liked the ending, but that didn't justify the hour and a half that led up to that ending. We didn't need that. Terminator 2 ended perfectly. We didn't need another one. The reason there's no Terminator 3 prior to that was we just didn't need one. There's even an extended version of Terminator 2 which outright says that Judgment Day never happened and everything was fine, and that's also a great ending. I do like how they left it ambiguous with 2, which suits the tone of the film better. But the intention was that was it. We're done. Pack up your bags. This series is over now, and that was a great place to leave it.
Salvation is okay because it features the war. Genesis, I quite like, and you watched that with me recently, didn't you, Jeff? So Genesis is, I guess, it's something I'd actually quite like for us to do on the show eventually, because it's, in a lame way, it's a bit like our day jobs, because it's just like loads of tech offices, and it's just like loads of product meetings where they're talking about, okay, we're going to create this new AI system and integrate it into this app and stuff like that. And I actually quite like all that discussion, and obviously it goes haywire. And it's a lot more of a modern take using modern technology, which is quite interesting. Quite liked Dark Fate as well, which was the more recent one, which it's not fantastic by any stretch, but it's very watchable.
Now, I have to admit, I did actually watch Genesis. See, having skipped Salvation, which I heard was half decent, but I was sort of burned
You're
from
still mad.
watching
You're still
3.
mad.
I'm still mad about 3. It's just that bad. And then I thought, okay, fine. I'm on an aeroplane, which is where I was at the time, on the way somewhere, and Genesis was there. And I thought, it can't. I heard the series that nothing's been as bad as 3 again. I will watch Genesis, and it will be fine. And it was not. It was bad. It was terrible.
Oh,
I just thought,
that.
what the heck have I just wasted 2 hours of my life watching? And I am so glad there was no further sequels to that. Although the actors were good. Well, I'd say that our new actress playing Sarah Connor was good, but and Matt Smith's in it. Who doesn't like Matt Smith? And I'll probably watch Dark Fate eventually, because it is kind of the old band back together again.
I haven't seen the TV show, I have to admit, but I have heard that there is an animated series as well called Terminator Zero, which I've not watched. It takes place in Japan.
Oh, so another one thing I wanted to make sure we discussed before I forget about this. So right at the end, of course, there's a slightly infamous credit as the film ends, which is something like credited in the work of Harlan Ellison. So this, of course, was because Harlan Ellison, despite having actually really liked the film and going on record as saying that he liked the film, also sued the film because he thought it ripped off 2 of his episodes of The Outer Limits. So for the purposes, I don't think you guys have seen them, haven't they? The episodes are Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier.
Explain what they are for the audience, and also just to remind us again.
Okay. So first off, The Outer Limits was an anthology sci-fi TV series, though there's no continuity between episodes. Each one is a standalone with a new cast, like Black Mirror these days, only with more aliens and robots and fewer bits of speculative stuff. And The Outer Limits was great fun. And so Soldier is similar in that there is a soldier, he's a human soldier from the future who comes back to the present day, but they're roughly the similarities with Terminator end. Because all the plot of Soldier is that some guys that have kind of caught him as this dangerous soldier guy from the future, trying to deprogram him from being this sort of just unthinking killing machines. So vaguely, there's a little bit like Terminator 2 there, I suppose, but Terminator 2 hadn't been made when the lawsuit was done. So I'm dubious. And Demon with a Glass Hand, again, involves someone from the future coming back. And the idea is that he then in the past is able to do things which enable the future destruction of humanity to be averted. And there are aliens that come back as well who are trying to kill him, although it being the 60s, they all look like goths in with swim gear on. It's not one of the more convincing alien monsters I've ever seen, but fine, it tells a story. And yeah, so I don't see it. I watched both episodes in preparation for this podcast, and they're very good episodes, and you should watch them. They are very good, but I don't really see enough similarity with Terminator. We don't have that bootstrap paradox. There's no killing alien. There's no killing robot. There's no single-minded thing chasing everyone, which is the main driving plot of Terminator. Other than the fact that people from the future, where the future's rubbish, come back now, there the similarity ends. I've actually read short stories by Philip K. Dick, which are much closer matches to the Terminator.
Yeah, they're very real.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick did write one where there are like these sort of the whole thing with the Terminators in the future that look human and try to infiltrate the human colony. He literally wrote a story with that. That I could believe is something that could have inspired Terminator, but not the Harlan Ellison stories. So, I mean, I don't want to get involved when litigation was happening, but I don't see it. And I know that I've seen quotes from James Cameron saying he wasn't happy that he was forced to put that credit on, and I'm actually with him on that. I don't think there really was any direct.
Harlan Ellis is a real.
He was a grumpy bugger. So he's kind of a friend. Harlan Ellison's a friend of a friend. So somebody I'm friends with just on Facebook.
6 degrees of Harlan Ellis.
Yeah, but I've spoken to quite a lot actually on Facebook. They live in America.
Facebook friends.
An author, but I've spoken to them quite a lot on Facebook, on Messenger and things like that. Was great friends with Harlan Ellison and said that he was a grumpy old bugger.
Well, he does have a small cameo in an episode of Babylon 5 because he was one of the creative advisors on Babylon 5, and it's where the computer gets an alternative personality for one episode, and it spends the whole episode moaning and complaining at Garibaldi. So there must have been some level of self-awareness with him. But I mean, he was a superb writer. You know, I've read a few of his bits and bobs, and he really was good. But yeah, I just honestly, I do not see, unless he wants to claim that he invented the concept of time travel, in which case I think Mr. Wells would like a little word in his logo. But yeah, I have to admit, I think James Cameron was done dirty with that needing.
It's probably
that
just the studio getting spooked and just going, look, it's going to cost us now to do this. Let's just do it. What do we all think about the deleted scenes for this movie?
Pretend like I don't know what you're talking about and explain for the audience, which I actually can't remember any of the.
So there are a number of deleted scenes. Some of them I think are inconsequential. Some of them are just bad. And some of them are they set up the second movie quite actually well, because there is a part towards the very end. I think there's an extra scene where they're recovering parts of the Terminator and taking it to somebody going, oh, what is this? Oh, we should have a look at it. And it a little bit more obviously sets up the second movie, whereas the version we get is literally everybody's carried out the end.
Yeah, I'd say that scene it would actually have been nice to do a slightly extended cut and re-put that one back in. I mean, we don't need it per se. We can assume that something like it happens. And it probably, I would guess, it wasn't meant to set up the second one specifically. I'd be surprised if they planned a second one when they made the first one. I don't know.
It was interesting to see how well it did set it up.
It does. No, it does. But I suspect it only existed to kind of reinforce the idea of the bootstrap paradox. The time travel backwards has actually set up everything.
Yes.
So you don't think it was set up a second film? You would think it was just to reinforce the narrative that this is how they.
I think so. I think that the original concept of Terminator 1 only was that it's a closed time loop. You know, everything the sequel to Terminator is Terminator in effect, because everything that you see in this sets up the future world, which then sets up the events again of Terminator. And
I'd like to see a crossover where Doc Brown comes in the DeLorean and says, "Sarah, it's your kid, Sarah."
The tennis jets.
It's not worked. And then
I would watch that film.
I would watch that film. Where is my crossover?
Can it also be Terminator 2 Back to the Future, the musical?
Perfect. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about alternative films, I would be remiss, and not many people know about this little gem. And I was very fortunate, as was Jeff. We're part of a couple of film clubs in our local area. Very lucky to have so many. And this film was shown one night. And it's a film called Lady Terminator. Now, Lady Terminator is an Indonesian film. I believe it's from sort of mid-80s. I think it's 86, 87. And I tell you what, I would recommend going out and sourcing it. Now, ignore the weird tagline. Yes, that is part of it. It's an 80s movie, which surprisingly for this 80s movie, there's only a few boobs in
a couple of very dodgy scenes, but there must be not as much.
But the Terminator, not Lady Terminator, the Terminator itself is very chaste for an 80s film, just a few boobs. But Lady Terminator, there is a few boobs seen. But forget about that. If the Terminator didn't exist, and for some parallel parallel universe Lady Terminator only exists, I think people will be talking about it a lot more because it is a fantastic reimagining of the Terminator series with a Lady Terminator in the main character.
Yeah, just set your expectations to 80s exploitation. Just for one, there's one or two bits that you want to sort of like, yeah, 80s exploitation. This is just how these things are.
Yeah.
But other than that,
the same director of Mystics in Bali, which is a movie about floating vampire heads where the heads come out and take all of the lungs and intestines with, so it's just like this head with all of the floppy bits floating around trying to eat babies. It's a very weird movie, and in fact I think it's getting a Blu-ray release. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Oh, I can't wait to actually see that film.
It's very silly.
if we're talking about Terminator rip-offs, it's more of a Terminator 2 rip-off, but there is a Bollywood one which is basically a Terminator 2 rip-off. I'm not going to say it's a very good film. It's honestly not. It's called Ra-1, R-A-O-N-E, Ra-1. Only in this one, the Terminator thing is a computer game, and that this kid's dad is developing, and the kid starts playing the computer game but doesn't finish playing it, and the computer game wants to be completed, and he has to defeat they have to have a final confrontation because otherwise the game's not over. So then the computer game thing comes into the real world, and then we get a Terminator ripoff. It's not great. It's got a couple of memorable dance scenes in it. There it is. Yeah, Ra-1. I mostly remember this because I got married in India and this poster was everywhere because that was the big sort of Diwali blockbuster hit of that particular year. It's interesting, shall we say.
Sounds it. It sounds it. Maybe something to check out. Well, we have talked a lot about the Terminator, and as will be, as you continue loyal listeners, which I'm sure you will be, what we do at the end of each episode is we talk about what's good about the tech in this film. So, chaps, what's good about the tech in this film?
I mean, it's obviously there's a big wavy hand over this is impossibly sophisticated programming on this Terminator thing, and there's the question of his battery life. But other than that, then I don't think they do a bad job of representing the idea that he's a computer.
I'd like to think of the deleted scene where he's like Wall-E and he's just like stood in the sun. That's why he's in LA. He needs to recharge from the sun.
Ah, that would make sense.
It doesn't work in a nuclear winter, though. It doesn't work in a nuclear winter, though. So he has alternative methods for that. He just plugs himself in, proprietary, like in RoboCop.
Maybe. I mean, he probably wasn't meant to exist for that long. I'd imagine Skynet imagined him as only needing to survive long enough to kill Sarah Connor, and then he basically is of no further interest. So his battery probably is just
Dark Fate. That's why you need to watch Dark Fate. No spoilers, no further spoilers to that.
Fair enough. I will watch it. Coming soon to a podcast near you. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they do a terrible job. There's perhaps a couple of little tiny edits I'd have made, like some of those lines of dialogue, because there's no reason for those to be made by a computer. But I'd say it's pretty good. Pretty good.
I think for a sci-fi tech film, it keeps most of the tech quite minimal. It does ask a lot of questions around what happens when AI becomes super intelligent, and then goes, do you know what? Actually, there's some guns and there's some chase scenes. Forget about that.
That's what happens.
Yeah. It's just like there's some deep existential questions about super intelligence. Look, here's Arnie shooting everybody. Like, okay, cool. Let's forget that for a bit. I think the tech of the time was also quite minimal as well. So it is keeping things quite minimalist.
And I like the way that Arnie's been directed as well. I mean, if you look at the way he moves around, like when he's killing all the policemen in the police station, he's been directed in such a way that there is not a motion he makes that's not necessary. When he walks through doors, it's just like a quick look to the left, look to the right, with as little fuss as possible, move on. That's great, because he doesn't do anything that's not necessary to his mission, and that makes sense as a computer device.
I think things like the teleporter technology, they did a good job of not showing too much technology because they'd have made it they age really badly. So I did appreciate the hunter killers as well, and the flying machines. I thought they're all fantastic. I like the ChatGPT style. How should I select the sentence? I think that's probably one of the most insightful bits of tech, and obviously the use of deep fake voice technology.
It's the precursor to RPG games.
Actually, you mentioned the flying things as well. Isn't that basically a drone? I mean, I'm assuming that flying thing. I don't think it makes it clear, but I'm presuming that flying thing is a Skynet device. So isn't that basically an automated drone?
It looks a bit like a drone. Yeah, it looks a little bit like it. Yeah, you're right.
And again,
flies like a drone.
Watch Terminator Salvation to know more about that sort of thing.
I'll try. I seem to have skipped all of the good Terminator films
You
other
think
than the
have.
first two.
But
I've just watched the
I
two bad ones.
I get it. We're all hurt by it. There needs to be a support group for anyone that's watched Terminator 3 after watching Terminator 1 and 2. Absolutely needs to be a support group. It was absolutely, unforgivable what they did to that series. and then we need reparations. The other films are going some way to doing that, but I just, I'm stung by it. But what I liked about the tech is I just think the robot itself just looks fantastic, considering that was, my Roomba still kind of gets stuck underneath the sofa and stuff like that and chewed up on carpets and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to a future where robots perform a little bit better. So I think it's just beautiful. It's beautiful design, that in particular. But what was bad about the tech in this film? Is there anything bad, actually, about the tech in this film?
I mean, like I've already mentioned, like I said, there's a couple of lines of dialogue that are just there to be kind of sassy 80s dialogue.
Mhm.
But I can forgive that because 80s.
Yeah.
Actually bad. I mean, some of the special effects are a little ropey, but that's all right. I mean, again, 80s. We have to forgive some of these limitations. But no, there's nothing that really strikes me as bad. It all kind of makes. Well, I mean, if I'm to nitpick, if I'm to really nitpick, this idea they kind of hand wave this thing of only living flesh can go back in time, and the excuse for the Terminator is that he's enclosed in flesh. Well, then couldn't he have stuck a gun inside himself and just sort of ripped the gun out of it? Open his chest up a bit, stick a gun inside, sew him back up, travel back in time. I got myself a gun. Let's go shooty happy. But that's really nitpicking.
Yeah.
Sounds very long-lived and in
Nitpicking
flesh.
a very good film.
Sounds very Videodrome. Sounds very Videodrome,
Yeah.
that. Very long-lived and in
Yes.
flesh.
Yes. And part of that is probably that they couldn't have future weapons in because frankly the budget won't support it. So we're just going to have some guns.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff? Any criticisms of the tech in the film?
Although it has some good ideas, interesting ideas about AI. I mean, the only thing is, I'd say that I don't trust any software suppliers to make AI that good. They become super intelligent. That's doing defense stuff. We were discussing at the time, like you just end up with like a. Do you want to say it, Lianne?
No.
Say with like a Horizon 2, like becoming Skynet, and it just like destroy the world through incompetence rather than being like super intelligent. That's probably more likely, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a film that we need to look at in the future at some point. That's Colossus: The Forbin Project, which kind of touches on some of those ideas a little bit, but that's for another week, I think.
I don't think that there is much bad about the tech in the film, but I do echo your sentiments, Jeff, where could we even build something that good? Which is why I think it kind of squirrels it away and says actually the AI just built itself and became like the ultimate paperclip problem.
I see you're trying to eliminate all humans. Can I help you with that?
Exactly. So I guess, did the Terminator predict the future well? I guess time will tell. It's the Judgment Day keeps changing. In this film, what day is Judgment Day in the first film? This is an answer for the old Googles, because it changes every film, doesn't it? There must be like I click the Judgment Day and then get WWE wrestling. I'll put Judgment Day Terminator.
Yeah, it changes more than like your usual every delivery time slot. It keeps changing.
Right, it does. Okay, so one Judgment Day is 1995, so we passed that. We're all good. Woo. 1997, we've done that. Good. 2000s, early 2000s, we've passed that. 2003, we've passed that. 2004, passed that. 2005, passed it. 2011, 2017, 2020, 2022. I think we've passed it. I think we're good. I think we can say it hasn't predicted the future, at least not that timeline. We do. We're really lucky. But in general, do you think it has predicted the future well in terms of AI?
I mean, it remains to be seen. And I suspect the reason for the moving Judgment Days is they always want it to feel like it's just on the horizon. Yeah. And I think it kind of does feel like it's always just on the horizon. And yes, there is a version of the way that AI is running at the moment that could theoretically lead to this. I think it's unlikely. I suspect in the real world, brakes would be put on this thing, and no one's really going to completely trust the AI with absolutely no ability to switch this thing off and reset to factory conditions with ridiculous levels of weaponry. But it's not impossible that in theory it could happen.
Agentic AI, agentic AI and integration into other systems. Let's see where we go with it. I think it'll be really fun, I'm sure.
Well, one thing it accurately predicted was that eventually Three podcast hosts will get together and they would name their podcast after Tech Noir, which is the nightclub in the Terminator, and a very cool nightclub. This is what I dreamed nightclubs would be like, aside from all the mass shootings. But what a great kick-ass soundtrack in that place, and the outfits, and people dancing like I dance, which is very, very 80s dancing. So yes, Eagle listeners amongst you would have noticed that this podcast, Tech Film Noir, is named after Tech Noir, the nightclub in Terminator. So did it predict the future well? It predicted that Tech Noir would have a second lease of life as this podcast. And that is our show. And before we end, we have a little thing that we like to offer our listeners, which is what food and drink pairing goes best with this film. So I will start with you first, Jeff. What, if people are watching this to watch it after listening to this episode, what would you recommend they pair with this
I
film?
think in the spirit of Ginger and the dearly departed Ginger and her boyfriend, she makes a very, very messy-looking post-coital sandwich, some kind of cheese, pickle and ham sandwich with a can of Quattro. And if anybody remembers Quattro, that stuff, I wish I could have it again.
There's a hipster sandwich shop near me, which is fantastic, and I feel like I should walk in and ask for a post-coital sandwich and see what they give me. Sounds
I have some
disgusting.
astonished looks, I suspect. I have no idea what Quattro is, I'm going to be honest. But I took more inspiration from the ending of the film as Sarah Connor's running off to become some sort of wild, hill-dwelling survivalist in South America somewhere, presumably. So I think survival rations, which can be boiled in the bag, coupled with some really, really dodgy bathtub distilled vodka, which can be mixed with your foul-tasting survival drink in order to get yourself a nice evening. Because I think she'll be needing a lot of this in the future.
And she's in Mexico too, so like a little bit of Tabasco sauce in there, maybe.
Why not? Yeah, let's
Why
do it.
not?
Anything that hides the taste of the disgusting vodka.
Or tequila, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, okay. I have no idea how you make that, but I'm sure it must be similar.
So for me, I'm going to take inspiration from the film itself. So Sarah gets stood up awful early on in the film. He's the real villain of the movie, in my opinion. The guy who stands her up when she's supposed to go on a double date with Ginger. She goes off and she has a pepperoni pizza by herself. So I would recommend viewers ordering yourself a pepperoni pizza to have, but also a nice scoop of ice cream to be eaten from a pocket, just like Sarah pointed out.
Yeah.
And so that is our show. That is an episode of Tech Film Noir. We have covered the Terminator. You have now your food pairing, so you can go and enjoy it yourself. If you like what you heard, make sure you do subscribe, leave a review, and tell your fellow film and tech nerds about us. See you next time.
See you, folks.
Bye.
Julian, I'll be back.
Only in a rerun.
Go!